There was a sense of dread on the exhausted lady's face as she wondered what might happen. It was just her children around. They were too young to drive. As she struggled to breathe, she felt dizzy. It was urgent for her to get to the hospital. She was wondering where her husband was. As she writhed in pain, she grabbed her stomach. Mother Rosetta Sanchez, 38, of New Mexico, always fantasized about having a large family. Michael, her wonderful husband, shared her dream of raising a family of children. She lived a wonderful life, and she couldn't be happier. There was nothing Rosetta loved more than big families. Having grown up in a small town in New Mexico, she dreamed of one day having a large family. She did exactly that. Her first child was born when she was 25, and she continued to fall pregnant year after year for 12 years straight. With 11 children, the couple had a huge family. Now, Rosetta's life was all about diapers, school runs, and doctor's appointments. The constant demands of motherhood didn't seem to bother Rosetta. Both she and her husband, Michael Sanchez, worked normal jobs. He was a contractor for a construction company, while she did administrative work for a decorating firm from home. While they were unable to spend much money after buying food and clothes for their brood, they were happy regardless of how little money they had left over. Rosetta was accustomed to waking up early in the morning to prepare breakfast for her family. Their meals always included eggs, bacon, and toast. During an average morning, the family consumed 24 eggs, 3 bacon packets, and 2 loaves of bread. In the mornings, the children would tumble out of bed, rub the sleep from their eyes, and gather around the kitchen table. Every one of them was unique in their own way, with a wide range of ages and personalities. While Rosetta assisted the younger children with getting dressed after breakfast, the older ones did it themselves. Afterward, it was time to drive the kids to school. Each child's backpack and all the family's belongings could fit in the Sanchez family's large, comfortable van. Every morning the children chattered and laughed as they squabbled over where to sit on their way to school. When all the children were safely dropped off at their various schools, Rosetta went home to begin her day's work. Since she was still able to be available to her children when they needed her, working from home was convenient for her. Rosetta wasn't bothered by the noise and activity in the house. Her big family was chaotic, and she loved it. Her lunch break was spent preparing a nutritious meal for her family. It was always her goal to ensure they ate plenty of lean meats and whole grains as well as fresh fruits and vegetables. They ate everything she put in front of them with eagerness, and they had a healthy appetite. In the afternoons, Rosetta would tackle the never-ending laundry pile. The house was always flooded with clothes to be washed, dried, and folded since there were so many children around. However, Rosetta didn't mind since reducing the pile was satisfying to her. The service she provided to her children was very important to her. Over the course of the afternoon, Rosetta would pick up the younger children from school and put them to bed. Rosetta could take a moment to relax or catch up on some work at this peaceful time of day during which the house was quiet. Since she had so many children, she often joked that those kids didn't fight because they were surrounded by so many. In the evenings, Rosetta would cook a delicious dinner for her family. She loved experimenting with new recipes, and her children were always eager to try whatever she made. They ate together as a family, chatting about their day and sharing stories. Rosetta and Michael made sure that family dinners were a priority, as they believed it was important to have this time together. After dinner, the children would scatter to do their homework or play games. Rosetta would clean up the kitchen, and then settle down with Michael to watch a movie or talk about their day. They were a strong couple, and they worked together to make their family thrive. It was extremely tiring, but they knew that they were a unique family. After dinner that night, she was feeling queasy. "Robbie and Rena, please can you guys help to clear the table? Mom isn't feeling too well." Her older children were used to helping out with chores at home, but their mom was rarely unwell. "What's wrong, Supermom?" Little 6-year-old Benjamin asked his mom. Rosetta tried to put on a smile. "Nothing, darling. Maybe Mommy ate too much for dinner." Little Benji kissed his mommy's tummy and ran off giggling. Rosetta watched her kids clean up as she tried to catch her breath. The Wonder Mom didn't know that there was something seriously wrong with her. "Michael?" "Michael," she called. "Where's your father? He was just here a minute ago," she asked the eldest in front of the TV. 12-year-old Stephen didn't even look at his mother. He just shrugged his shoulders and carried on staring at the screen. Rosetta clutched her stomach and wobbled towards her bedroom, but she didn't even reach her bedroom door when something terrible happened. But the Rosetta suddenly felt lightheaded. It was too late, and she fell to the floor, out cold. She fainted. 7-year-old Allison, who had been in the bathroom, heard the bump and ran outside. "Help, Mom fell, Stephen. Come here," she screamed. The children ran to their mother's side. Stephen screamed for his father. Michael came rushing into the house. "What's happening?" He checked his children's faces, which led to him seeing a humped body lying on the floor. Michael ran over to his wife. He checked her pulse, and she was still breathing. "Thank God," he said. "Stephen, go tell Mrs. Lynch next door that we have an emergency. Please ask her to come over and watch you guys." Stephen nodded and darted out the door. Michael carried his wife to the car. She was a big-boned lady, but he was used to her weight and carrying her. He managed to drive there in 6 minutes flat. He didn't stop at the traffic lights. As they got to the hospital, the emergency staff was waiting for them. Michael watched in horror as his unconscious wife was pushed into a cold, white ward. After 20 minutes, Dr. Johnson's came outside. "Is she?" Michael looked questioningly at the doctor. Tired Michael's eyes were as big as boulders. "She's fine, she's stable. She's awake," the doctor said. "Can I see her?" Michael asked. "Yes, that's fine, but don't agitate her," the doctor said strictly. "Thank you," Dr. Michael said. Michael ran inside the ward. Rosetta was sitting on the bed, looking pale and sad. "Oh, Michael," she said. He held her hand. "The doctors are still doing more tests. They think it may be low blood pressure." Michael kissed his wife's forehead. "Just relax. You're going to be okay, honey." Rosetta trusted her husband, but she wasn't sure. Just then Dr. Johnson's came in with a confused look on his face. "I have contacted your previous doctor, so I am aware of your medical history. Dr. Singh, your gynecologist." Michael was not following. "Is everything okay?" He stared at the doctor's face. "I think you may want to sit down for this one," he said, and patted the back of the visitor's armchair. "I need to run more tests." Rosetta was nervous as she lay on the examination table, waiting for the doctor to run more tests. Why had Dr. Johnson's called Dr. Singh? She had never experienced any complications during her previous pregnancies, but she knew that anything could happen. But when Dr. Johnson's asked her for a urine sample, she suspected the worst. The doctor examined her carefully, and then he smiled. "Rosetta," he said, "you are incredibly fertile. You're going to have a big family indeed." Rosetta felt a mix of emotions as the doctor checked her. The stethoscope was ice cold on her chest. She was excited but also apprehensive. What if something went wrong? Could it be? The doctor had been surprised when he saw her medical history and had run more tests. When he told her that she was incredibly fertile, Rosetta was both shocked and thrilled. She had always wanted a big family. She and Michael had 2 sets of twins, and they were looking forward to raising them. However, the doctor was surprised when he saw Rosetta's medical history and asked her to stay back for an ultrasound appointment. The doctor left the room for a moment and soon returned with a piece of paper in his hand. "Well, it looks like congratulations are in order, you two," he said with a smile. "You're pregnant." Rosetta felt sick. "Are you sure, doctor?" "How is my body going to be able to handle this again?" she cried. "I'm sure you will be fine with child number 12, the doctor replied. She was only a few weeks pregnant, so it was too early for the doctor to tell anything definite. The next month, Rosetta and Michael went back to the doctor's office, holding hands tightly. They waited patiently as the doctor examined her, and then gave them the good news. "You're having twins," he said. Rosetta and Michael burst into tears of joy. They hugged each other, laughing and crying at the same time. Michael, however, was worried about the expenses. He knew that they could afford to take care of more children. It would be a stretch. He didn't want Rosetta to worry about anything during her pregnancy, so he promised himself that he would work harder and save more money. During Rosetta's 6th month of pregnancy, she was very sick. She was experiencing a lot of pain and discomfort, and Michael rushed her to the doctor. As she waited for her doctor's appointment, Rosetta couldn't help but think about how her family would grow. She was looking forward to seeing her little bundle of joy and the happiness he or she would bring to their lives. When she arrived at the doctor's office, the doctor was surprised to see her. He asked her to stay back to discuss her medical history. It had been a difficult pregnancy to accept. She had her hands full. Rosetta was a bit nervous, but she trusted her doctor. She knew he would do everything in his power to keep her and her baby safe. He did another ultrasound, and he was shocked to see what he did. The doctor was shocked to find something growing in her stomach. He looked at Rosetta and she could see the fear on his face. At first he thought it was a tumor, but upon further examination, he discovered that Rosetta was pregnant with something else. He didn't want to take any chances with the diagnosis. The technician conducting the ultrasound was surprised to find not one, but 2 little babies hiding in Rosetta's womb, behind their older siblings. The doctor confirmed that Rosetta was having triplets, 2 boys and 1 girl. She was pregnant with triplets. There was another little boy hiding behind his brothers. He was much smaller in size. "Rosetta," he said, "you're pregnant with triplets." Rosetta couldn't believe it. She and Michael hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. There was another little boy hiding behind his brothers. He was much smaller in size, but he was healthy and strong. Rosetta and Michael were over the moon. They couldn't wait to meet their 3 beautiful babies. They already had 2 sets of twins, but triplets were a whole different ball game. The next few months were a whirlwind of excitement and anticipation. Rosetta was getting bigger and bigger, and Michael was working harder than ever. They had to make sure that they had everything they needed for the babies. They bought a bigger house, a bigger car, and stocked up on baby clothes, diapers, and bottles. The news of her pregnancy wasn't a surprise to anyone in the Sanchez household. They were all excited and eagerly awaiting the arrival of the new member of their family. Rosetta's husband, Michael, was over the moon. He loved nothing more than the sound of little feet running around the house, and he couldn't wait to hold his new baby in his arms. As the months went by, Rosetta's belly grew bigger and bigger. The family's excitement grew with it. They talked about baby names, nursery decorations, and how the new baby would fit into their already large family. Rosetta had become somewhat of a pro at being pregnant, but this time was different. She was very emotional. She was about to have 14 children in her house. The Sanchez family was over the moon. They couldn't believe that they were going to be blessed with not one, not two, but 3 new babies. Rosetta was a little apprehensive at first, but as she felt the babies move and kick inside her, she knew that she was going to love them with all her heart. The family spent the next few months preparing for the arrival of the triplets. They decorated the nursery with 3 cribs, 3 changing tables, and 3 of everything else. Rosetta's other children, ranging in age from 2 to 16, were excited to have 3 new siblings to play with and help take care of. They were all on board for the adventure. Michael was worried about how they would support such a large family. With so many mouths to feed, he began to think of new ways to earn more income. He was going to be a father of an amazing 14 children. He took on extra jobs and worked long hours to ensure his family would have everything they needed. But would it be enough? Rosetta and Michael were over the moon with excitement. They couldn't wait to meet their triplets. It was going to be their first set. They started preparing for their arrival, buying baby clothes and painting the nursery. Rosetta's older children were thrilled to have 3 new siblings on the way, and they couldn't wait to meet them. As Rosetta's pregnancy progressed, she noticed that she was feeling more tired than usual, but she didn't let that stop her from taking care of her children and running her household. She continued to prepare meals, clean the house, and care for her children with the same love and dedication she always had. Michael warned her that stress was bad for the babies. As the due date approached, Rosetta's excitement grew. She was eager to hold her babies in her arms and introduce them to the world. Michael was nervous, but he was also excited to meet his children. He had been working overtime and saved up over $10,000. He was confident that the first few months would be okay. The babies were always due. The family's excitement grew. Michael took time off work to be there for the birth, and the children made signs to welcome their new siblings into the world. The big day was just around the corner. Rosetta ensured that her crowded home was cozy and warm for the new babies. Would the other children be obliging? As the due date approached, Rosetta's family and friends gathered around her, offering their support and love. They spoke about the day of the delivery. Rosetta wanted everyone to be there when she went into labor. She would need more than the help of her husband and the doctors to give birth to 3 healthy babies. The day finally arrived when Rosetta went into labor. Michael drove her to the hospital, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. He was an anxious person, and today he was very stressed out. Rosetta was calm and collected, but she was also eager to meet her babies. The doctor and the nurses were ready, and they quickly got Rosetta into the delivery room. Rosetta was in painful labor, and Michael was pacing in the hospital. He had been through this before, but he knew that triplets were a high-risk pregnancy. The entire family was there to support her. They all knew how important this moment was for Rosetta, and they were there to make it special for her. As Rosetta gave birth to the triplets, the room was filled with excitement and joy. The first baby was a little girl, and she was perfect in every way. The second baby was a little boy, and he was just as beautiful as his sister. The third baby was the little boy who had been hiding behind his brothers in the ultrasound. He was small, but he was healthy. Rosetta and Michael laughed, tears streaming down their faces as they described the birth of their children. They had done this before, but it never got old. The first baby was a boy, and he came out crying loudly. The second baby was a girl, and she was just as beautiful as her brother. Rosetta and Michael felt their hearts bursting with love. And then came the third baby. He was small and delicate, but he was a fighter. Rosetta gave birth to 3 healthy babies. The first was named Lucas, the second was named Sophia, and the third, the smallest of the 3, was named Noah. The family was overjoyed. They couldn't believe how lucky they were to have been blessed with 3 beautiful, healthy babies. They now had a whopping 14 children. Rosetta and Michael were overwhelmed with joy. They had never been happier in their lives. They knew that their family was now complete, and they couldn't wait to watch their children grow up together. The triplets were named Sophia, Lucas, and Noah. They were loved by everyone in the family, and their arrival brought them all closer together. Michael was excited about the new additions to their family, but also worried about how they would afford to care for 3 new babies. "I'm going to have to pick up some extra time with the office," he said. However, Rosetta remained positive, assuring Michael that they would find a way to make it work. "We're going to be fine. Don't worry," she said. The family was overjoyed with the new additions to their family, and Rosetta's older children were thrilled to have 3 new siblings to play with. Michael continued to work hard to provide for his family, but he also made sure to spend time with his other children and be a present father. He was doing a good job so far. The next few weeks were a blur of diapers, feedings, and sleepless nights, but the Sanchez family took it all in stride. Rosetta was a natural at caring for babies, and Michael was an amazing help. The older children pitched in, taking turns holding the babies and helping with the housework. The parents had their own little team of helpers. As the famous babies grew, their personalities started to emerge. Noah was the quiet one, content to sit and watch the world go by. It's no wonder he was hiding in his mother's womb. Lucas was the rambunctious one, always on the move and getting into everything. And little Sophia was the sweetest of them all, with a smile that could light up a room. As the children grew, Rosetta continued to dedicate herself to her family, always putting their needs before her own. She made many sacrifices to keep her kids educated and sheltered. Despite the challenges of raising such a large family, she remained determined to provide her children with a happy and loving home. Her children were well behaved, and she knew that she was a great mom. As the years passed, Rosetta and Michael watched their children grow up. They were happy and healthy, and they loved each other more than anything. Rosetta never regretted her decision to have a large family. It was unusual and took up all her time, but she wouldn't have it any other way. She knew that it was the best thing she had ever done. The Sanchez family became well known in their community for their large family, and people would often stop to admire the children when they were Italian. Rosetta didn't mind much, as long as she wasn't in a rush. Pictures with fans usually took some time because they would want to meet every single child. There just isn't time for everyone, Rosetta would say. As the triplets turned 1, the family celebrated with a big party. There was cake and balloons, and all the family and friends came to celebrate. Rosetta pulled out all the stops and even got some live entertainment. There was a punk rock band and a magician. Rosetta looked around at her family, and she knew that she was the luckiest woman. Sophia, Lucas, and Noah were inseparable, and they did everything together. They played sports, went to school, and even started a band together. The Sanchez family was always full of laughter and love. They were always the center of attention wherever they went, and they loved it. They started a TikTok channel called Cheaper by the Baker's Dozen Plus One, which was an online hit. Rosetta's dream of having a big family had finally come true. She had 14 beautiful children, who she loved more than anything in the world. She knew that her children would grow up to do great things, and she couldn't wait to see what the future held for them. The Sanchez family had their ups and downs, but they always stuck together. With each passing day, Rosetta and Michael's love for each other and their children grew stronger. They knew that their family was their greatest blessing and were grateful for each and every one of their children. They knew that they had their own little army, and for the rest of their lives, they would always stick up for each other. In the end, Rosetta and Michael's love and dedication paid off. Their children grew up to be successful and loving individuals, each one contributing something special to the world. And although Rosetta and Michael faced many challenges over the years, they knew that their love for each other and their family would always be enough to see them through.